by now you may or may not have seen some movement on the scale. And that's what I want to talk to you about today is that the scale can really fuck with your head. And I'm sure you know this because that's why you're watching this video. And it's crazy because a lot of it you don't have control over. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. Sometimes it'll stay the same. Sometimes it'll just be such a pain in the ass. And you're going to be like, what the fuck is going on? So here's the key. The key is to stay neutral and to focus on the overall trend over time versus the day-to-day numbers. If you just focus on the day-to-day numbers, you're going to get pissed off and you're going to get very frustrated. And that's where most people mess up with the scale. That's how most people use it wrong. They focus on the day-to-day numbers. And in reality, we don't have control over the day-to-day numbers. What we do have control over is the numbers over time. We have control over the actions we take every day, the consistency we put in every day. That's what we have control over. And as a result, over time, the trend will eventually go down, right? It's just like when you plant a seed in the ground, right? The tree or the plant doesn't just grow right away. No, you got to water it. You got to give it sun. It's going to take time. But the water, the sun, the planting in the ground, the work you put in eventually leads to a plant or a tree that sprouts over time. So let's just say your weight is going to start up here. Okay. So if you could see that little dot right there, right? Again, you might notice that it might go down a little bit. Cool. Okay. But then the next day, you might notice it goes up. Cool. Again, just data. And day over day, week over week, it might look something like this. Okay. But if you'll notice, what is happening? If you just looked at the day-to-day numbers, again, you would get really frustrated because you would just see the spikes in weight. And our brains are going to always look towards the negative thing. But in reality, if we drew a straight line from this point to this point, it would noticeably be going down. So what am I saying here? Number one, again, you have to be consistent. You have to win the day. If you're not being consistent and you're not going in and day out, you can't be mad and upset that you're not seeing changes because you have control over changing. And that's something that you have to realize and change, right? We have to be a little bit more consistent. However, if you are being consistent and you're not seeing the change on the scale, you got to flex that patient muscle, okay? Look at the weekly average of your weight. Okay, cool. So if we took this weekly average, we would be able to compare week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4. And what that does is that takes out all of the fluctuations that are happening. Because again, if we see all these fluctuations, we're going to be like, what the heck is going on? But by taking these weekly averages here, we are able to then see a more realistic number of what's going on. Then we can compare average from week 1, average from week 2, average from week 3, average from week 4, okay? And that's only part 2. The last part is the most important part probably, is comparing month to month. I'll just put month. Because again, it's not what happens day to day. And it's really not what happens week to week because there's a lot that's going on. Your weight's going to spike up. Your weight's going to go down. But over time, we should see that trend start to change, right? And you might even start noticing this in your progress photos and your measurements and the way your clothes fit. Because the scale, sometimes you can be holding on to some water weight, right? You might be building some muscle that replaces some of the body fat. So, of course, the scale's not going to change, right? So, if we can compare month to month, right? So how was I on month 1, right? Day 1 compared to month 2, day 1, right? And you might see, hey, I was 150 pounds here. Cool, I'm 147 pounds here. Awesome, you lost 3 pounds in a month. That's fucking incredible. Remember, half a pound to a pound and a half a week is great progress. So this is why we don't want to compare week to week. Because if you compared this number to this number, okay, it would stay the same. But if you kept going, it eventually is going to keep going down. It's like the little meme that you see with the miner where he's mining for gold, and then you see two people. You see the one person who keeps mining and they get the gold. Then you see one person who stops and the gold was right there. If they would have just kept going, they would have gotten it. So keep going. Don't let the scale fuck with your head, and you got this.